I wanted to just discuss a few pointers about getting prepared for rain. Whenever we have hikes during change of season, fall into winter or winter into spring, you're going to expect rain. Depending on where you are, probably snow. When I took my Grand Canyon hike on the Bright Angel Trail, I was preparing a month in advance and looking at the weather forecast for that area, Grand Canyon, and it was hot and humid and sunny up until the week I left. At that point in time, 5 inches of snow dumped into the area, and I wasn't prepared for it. I dressed for the weather I thought was going to occur. Even checking the almanac, I looked at what happened in the last 10 years, but I dressed for summer. So the best thing I could do was I stopped by, because I had summer hiking shoes, I stopped by a local Target, picked up a whole bunch of plastic wraps and covered my boots in plastic bag. That kept a little bit of moisture away from my boots. And then, cool story, I always wanted to get a pair of crampons, and I was shopping in some outdoor store. I wound up getting a pair of crampons for sale because it was off season, and I happened to use those crampons going down Bright Angel Trail because there are sections of that trail where it was snowy and icy at the same time, and no traction with plastic bags, so the crampons came in handy. Just goes to show you what was meant to do is meant to be. But regardless, when we take our hike in California, it's probably going to be wet. Hopefully not too wet, but not only should you prepare with having a rain fly on your tent, but dress appropriately. The one problem with using waterproof material is that it can sometimes keep the heat on the inside, so you can actually get very hot. Again, unlike venting, a lot of these pockets in this REI vest or jacket are vented so that you can have a little bit of cross ventilation, even pit zips or armpit zips to cross ventilate. You can loosen up the waistband. You can also, I have this outdoor research hat that keeps moisture away from my neck, but there's also a hood on this, and some people would just use a baseball cap, which is easy to stow and pack, but unless you have a cover on the baseball cap, and this is waterproof, this will keep me drier. And this is packable too. The backpack, since I'm a guide, I have this waterproof pack that I use for kayaking. And you can use these kind of backpacks, but the problem is it's only one deep place to put it in. So if you have something of delicate objects on the bottom, it'll get crushed by anything that's on top. So you have to, anytime you go for unpacking, if you stop and get a sip of water or eat, you have to take out everything. So it gets to be a pain in the butt, but since I'm a guide, I like to hold water and food for everybody. You can also, this is my Osprey. This is your basic backpack. It doesn't hold too much, it's more for day hikes, but it comes with its own waterproof sleeve, so it wraps around and keeps the insides dry. If you have a regular backpack and it gets wet or it's not waterproof, everything you have on the inside, cameras, batteries, food, license, money, everything will get wet, and it doesn't make it fun because once it gets wet, it also becomes heavier, which is important to also take into account. The more you pack, preparing for different types of weather, the heavier your pack will be. So sometimes compressibility is nice. This jacket can compress into a pocket. The hat can compress. My rain pants can compress. You can compress these any way you want, but these will break down. I had to go through a couple of different, I'll put the video on here of my hike in Grand Canyon. So that's something to keep in mind, is backpack cover, and then your body cover and your head cover. In a pinch, I have stopped by Walmart when I had a Devil's Lake hike. It was raining that day. Stopped by Walmart. I picked up a big poncho. The only problems with big ponchos is that usually I find if you're in wind or if you're in rain and wind, the poncho can get ripped around. The ponchos here are held together by small rivets on the side, so pretty much just fits over you and your pack, and it covers everything. So it puts you in here and it covers up your head. This is pretty durable. It's coated, but it will get wet eventually, so and it will get torn. Had somebody that came along to Angel's Landing in Zion. They had a poncho that got ripped up by the time we were finished. Still worked to keep her dry, but again, it depends on, you saw how big that packed down into. Here's a cheaper pack. It compresses smaller space. No rivets on this. It's very basic. It's just see-through plastic. Same design as the poncho. Again, if you don't have anything, you have to stop by your regular Walmart or Target. You probably find something, but probably want to throw this away. Again, the only problem with the ponchos is that you have no ventilation, so you're like in a sauna after you've hiked in weather. Which is the last point. When you do hike, you should take water. You should still follow the rules as far as water consumption to prevent dehydration. And when you're so zipped up that you're waterproof, you will keep heat in. You'll keep water from going in, but you'll also insulate and keep heat in. So that does make for sweating. When you sweat and when there's crosswind hitting you at a certain mile an hour, it will cool you down. So the rule of thumb when you're hiking in shade is expect a 10-degree drop into the ambient weather of where you're hiking. When there's rain and wind, you can expect 10 to 20 degrees. So if it's 50 where you are, expect that it's going to be pretty cold by the time you're wet, by the time you make it to your summit, or if you're in the shade and you're wet with wind. Just prepare for that, and again, that would be insulation underneath your layers of waterproof. It's always wiser to take layers. Again, if you're kind of conserving space because you only have a carry-on on your airplane ride, you'll have to pick and choose your fights. But the most important thing is to at least prepare for wet and have a couple of items depending on the season. Also to look ahead, check out your farmer's almanac and see what the weather has been in the area for the last couple of years, the time of your hike. And then hopefully that, in addition to making your tent waterproof with a rain fly, and perhaps having some boots that are appropriate for the weather, will make your hike a lot more memorable.